What's going on, guys? Welcome back to the TCG Empire YouTube channel. Today we're taking a look at Iron Valiant EX. Again, this is a new deck that was introduced from the Paradox Rift set, and I have to say that this deck is a ton of fun, but it does, take some correct sequencing. So, Iron Valiant EX is a new future Pokemon that was released within Paradox Rift, and it has a very unique ability, Tachyon Bits. Once during your turn, when this Pokemon moves from your bench to your active, you may put 2 damage counters on one of your opponent's Pokemon, and then for 2 Psychics and a Colorless, you deal 200 damage. During your next turn, this Pokemon can't attack. So the essence behind this is that you get out a couple Iron Valiants, you switch between them with Tachyon Bits, and then you pair it with something like Medicham V, which allows you to use Yoga Loop, and in sequence order, you can, Yoga Loop into placing more damage counters, and then also hit big with Iron Valiant. Now, being paired with that, we are also running the Xatu engine. Xatu is from Paradox Rift, and it was released, and it does have the Clairvoyant Sense. Once during your turn, you can attach a basic Psychic Energy from your hand to one of your bench Pokemon, and if you attach an energy to your Pokemon, you may draw 2 cards. You never really use it for its attack. It does do 80 damage, though. But most of the time you will use this to help power up Yoga Loops, you'll help power up, your Iron Valiants, and have draw consistency as well. With that, we're also pairing it with Shadow Rider Calyrex V. You mainly use it for Astral Barrage. You choose 2 of your opponent's bench Pokemon, or Pokemon in general, and you put 5 damage counters on them. And the fact that you place 5 damage counters means that Manaphy does not stop this. So you can take 2 prizes in a turn if you really need to. And yeah, it's pretty much all the deck is. We are also using Future Booster Energy Capsule. So the future Pokemon that this card is attached to has no retreat cost. So it gives your Iron Valiant free retreat, and you also deal 20 more damage, which means against things like Chiampao, you hit 220. So that 20 that you get to spread anywhere, you can worry about on the bench to set up Yoga Loops later. And overall, it's just super insane of how good this tool is. Now, being paired with that, we do have the Forest Seal Stone just for consistency. Then we have 3 Po-Town Store, as I call it, Po-Town Store, just because Po-Town was a card way back when that was really good. But we are running Town Store, so you can search out the tools. And then being paired with that, we just have some switching cards. So we have 3 Switch Cart, 2 Switch, 2 Escape Rope. And the whole essence is to pretty much just attack with Iron Valiant, but it also does give you the benefit to use Calyrex or to use Medicham. So, as always, the deck list will be posted right here, so you guys have a full clean view of it. And in the description will be the copied and pasted list, so that way you guys can copy and paste it into Pokemon Trading Card Game Live, try it for yourselves. And yeah, this deck is super fun. So, with that being said, I want to thank you guys for all of the love and support. These Paradox Rift videos have been going off. You guys have been killing it. All the love and support is greatly appreciated. And if you guys are new, if you could do me a favor, smash the like button, subscribe, turn on post notifications, and let me know down below what you think of Iron Valiant. It's definitely a fun deck, and you can actually donk your opponent if you are able to get out, all your Iron Valiants and switch between them and kind of pull off those shenanigans. We are only playing 3, but you can do it more efficiently with 4, but this list only needs 3. So, with that being said, guys, I want to thank you for everything, and I hope you guys enjoy the gameplay. Later. Alrighty, guys. So let's get into the very first game with Iron Valiant. Hopefully, the setup goes well. Our opponent is letting us go first, and we did get a decently good start. We have access to a Xatu, we have access to Jet Energy, we also have access to a supporter for next turn, plus we get to see what my opponent's playing against, so... Okay, so my opponent's running Charizard, and they let us go first, which is good. So, I don't hate that, and depending on what they start, we kind of have a lot that we can work with, so... My opponent did start Charmander. Now, if we had access to double Valiant, we would be able to set up how we need to. But right now, I don't think that there's too much that we need to worry about. I think we're just going to go double Valiant. And then we'll go Jet Energy. And then this will let us put 20 onto the Charmander. And then, let's see. We'll go switch cart into the other Valiant, and then now we have access to potentially setting up a yoga loop next turn. So don't hate that. Either way, though, next turn we can be starting to attack with the laser blade. I just need to adjust my microphone just a little bit, just to make it a little bit easier for me to actually see everything how I need to. So that looks good right there. And we'll tighten this back. All right, so we're good now. I had to get a new microphone stand because my microphone stand just decided to, randomly basically break today. So I had to go out and get a new one. That way I can make sure that, you guys are getting all of the videos that you want, all the videos that you need, and that I can actually, record how I need to. So don't mind me while I fix these little audio issues in the middle of recording, but my opponent is going for Ultra Ball to get rid of an Arven and Iono. Grabbing another Charmander, so if we can get something like a Yoga Loop going next turn, we'll be in a super solid spot. So there is Iono, fresh 6. So my opponent will be able to use the evolution, but thankfully they can only choose their benched Pokemon, so we can still potentially Yoga Loop the active, and better yet, we can potentially set up some damage on the bench as well. So, and my opponent chooses to not use the evolution TM, potentially meaning that they whiffed an energy. So what we have access to is the Xatu. So that's good. So what I'm thinking we do is we'll put the Mew down. We'll go Ultra Ball. Get rid of these two. We'll grab... Unfortunately, we're going to have to go for another Natu. Just because we don't have the ability to go for another. So let's see. So what I'm thinking we do is, just to save ourselves some trouble, we'll go into Mew because it is a free retreater. And then we are going to be able to bring up an Iron Valiant. We can put 20 on one of the Charmanders, go from there. So take out the Bidoof in the meantime as well. We'll go for the restart just to see if there's anything else to work for, and there's really not, so we'll just go for the research here. As long as we get some energy to work with, we'll be good, and we actually do get the why am I blanking so hard? We're getting the fog crystals that we need, so first thing we can do is the first fog crystal. And we can go for a second fog crystal here. Now we can use Xatu's ability in order to attach once, which means that we can put an energy onto the Valiant here, draw us 2 cards. We do get the future capsule booster, which means now if we wanted to, we could escape rope. But what I think I'm going to do here is just go town store. We'll use the town store in order to grab the Forest Seal Stone. And I could actually, well, I can't anymore. I could have tried and set up a Calyrex, but I can go for that next turn. So what we'll do here is just go for the Star Alchemy. This will let us grab a switching card. That way my opponent is still, they're not able to promote a Charmander, and we're still in a good spot. But at the same time, I don't really mind if my opponent brings up a Charmander, because if I can get rid of both, I'm still in a good spot. So what I think I'm going to do here is we'll go Escape Rope, see what my opponent brings up, and if they bring up this Charmander, we can still KO it with double Valiant, so that's fine. So we'll do the Tachyon. We'll go 20 on Charmander here. We can go the Capsule, which means that we can retreat into this Valiant. Put 20. Take a prize card. And we do have a Psychic Energy, so we do have some more acceleration for next turn. So now my opponent has to choose what to bring up, which means that now we can just attach to the Iron Valiant, and we can just go for 200, take 2 prizes. So we are in a bit of an awkward spot because now Charizard can actually knock us out, but it's not the full end of the world. My opponent does have to find the Rare Candy Zard, get the 2 energy, as well as anything else, and depending on, how next turn goes, we can actually set up a Medicham in order to go for the Yoga Loop, so... I don't hate the way that all of this is going right now. My opponent using Town Store, considering they are playing Arvinzard, there's quite a few things that they could go for. They probably weren't able to use the TM last turn because they could not, find the energy in order to use Evolution. If they did, it would have been a little bit more awkward, but it definitely wouldn't have been the end of the world. So I think if we can pull off a Yoga Loop next turn into a big Laser Blade, we'll be in a good spot. It's just going to really depend on how everything looks. We do have one Xatu in the discard, which is something that we have to keep in mind, but otherwise, we're in a good spot. There's not really too much that we need to worry about. So. There is the Ultra Ball. We'll see what my opponent goes for now. The only awkward thing is the fact that we're only going to have one Iron Valiant to do. So there is a Lumineon coming down. So Lumineon is a good way for us to kind of get a win con going if we need one. So there's the Lumineon coming down. Now my opponent can use the Forest Seal Stone that they grabbed. So they can probably grab Arven here. Or they grab Iono, which is fine too. Thankfully, we do have draw potential with the Xatu, so... And interestingly enough, there's the counter catcher. Again, not really going to do too much for my opponent, because as long as we can, bring up the Iron Valiant, we're in a good spot. And we drew the boss's orders as well. And if my opponent doesn't evolve this Charizard this turn, into Charizard this turn, it's going to get KO'd. So there's a lot that we have going for us. And I don't think that my opponent is really going to be able to benefit super well. So. And there's the V-Star coming down. So. My opponent already played a supporter, so they could have Rare Candy Zard. And if they do, then the only annoying thing is the fact that, we can't one-shot a Zard. The most that we can do is 260, 280 if we got down another Pokemon, but all is well. If my opponent can't evolve, though, we can potentially Yoga Loop this Bidoof. So, there's a Fire Energy on Lumineon. And my opponent just concedes. So, the sheer pressure of us being able to kind of just set up how we needed to and flood the board with damage meant that we were able to, put on enough pressure, especially forcing my opponent to kind of go the fast route. So I think that was a good game to kind of showcase the speed. Let's try and showcase another game, see if we can try and do the same thing, but maybe have a longer game this time around. Alrighty, guys, into the second game with Iron Valiant. We do have the option to go first, which is what we like to see. Even though we don't get a turn 1 supporter, it does mean that, we can get turn 2 aggression going. And if we had a basic here, that hand would have been honestly cracked. So the fact that we don't have a basic is unfortunate, but hopefully, setting up, we can kind of do what we need to do. So my opponent is going to have the option to set up. And the only thing that sucks about having the mulligan is that if my opponent ends up drawing a basic off of the mulligan, they can bench it. So if they decide that, they don't want to get donked, we run into the awkward possibility. So, all right, looking at this start, we do start Squawk, which isn't bad. This is actually a phenomenal hand to start with. So what I'm thinking we do is start the Squawk, and then we can just get the aggression going from there. So we have the energy that we can attach to the Valiant. So overall, you know, things are kind of going how we need it to. So, and we do have another Psychic in hand. So the first thing we'll do is bench the Iron Valiant. We'll go here. So we'll grab Xatu. Medicham is going to be important. And then taking a look at some other things that are potentially prized. Looks like we do have one Psychic Energy prized. And otherwise nothing else that's like super important. So we do have one more Valiant that's prized, so we can only have 2 to work with. But we can pull off a Yoga Loop next turn, so I don't hate that. So we'll go Battle VIP Pass. We'll go Medicham, and we'll get out second Xatu, just to kind of help us with what we need. And then now we can go here. Considering the fact that I am going to have to Squawk and Seize and get rid of these cards in the hand, I think we'll just get the damage going now. So we'll go 20, and then we can go Switch Carts, Iron Valiant, do another 20, just so we can set up a Yoga Loop next turn, and then we have Squawk and Seize, which means that we can set up more of what we need, and we do have the booster as well as the 4 Seal Stone, so everything that we need or could ask for right now is exceptional to where it's at. And we actually have a super solid hand for next turn, because we can Jet Energy this Valiant into play, retreat into this one if we wanted to. So, you know, looking at how things are going, we do have the option to Yoga Loop next turn, which is huge. And from there, we can just kind of set up how we need to. So, there's another Ralts coming down. Now, the unfortunate part is the fact that I don't have the ability to set up a Calyrex, unfortunately, but it's all good. So my opponent Iono's away our fantastic hand, but we should still be able to do it. So it's honestly not the end of the world. We have access to Town Store. We have energies, so Town Store can grab the item to retreat. And then otherwise we should be okay. We can definitely mess my opponent's board up a lot, so I think with what we're going to do in the coming turns, we're definitely going to be in a good spot. My opponent grabs the Fog Crystal. So I think what we'll do is we'll definitely go for a Yoga Loop, and then we can just, you know, pivot with Valiance and go into setting up more of how we need to. So it's definitely not the end of the world. So there is another Town Store. So let's see. We'll definitely go Town Store. And as far as what's in our hand, let's see. I could grab the V-Stone, or the Stone, which means that I could grab Xatu, which means then I could attach, draw 2. I don't hate the idea of potentially doing that. And I think that's kind of where we're going to go. So, let's see. We're definitely going to go the Stone. Which means we can go Stone here. We'll go Star Alchemy. Star Alchemy can grab us the Xatu. Which means we'll have some more cards to look at. So we'll go Xatu. And go here. We'll attach to the Medicham, which will allow us to draw a couple more cards. We get the booster anyways, which is fantastic. Let's see. So I'm thinking this is what I'm going to do. We're going to put a booster on this Valiant because I need to hit a switching card anyways. And as far as looking at this hand, I'm kind of okay with just researching this away. And we did get a switching card, which is perfect, which means now we can set up how we need to. And we do have access to another Xatu as well. So what we can do is Escape Rope. We can bring up this Valiant, go for the 20. go for the yoga loop, and start going from there. So put 20 on the Ralts here. We can go Ultra Ball. Mew's not going to be as, dominant in this game, so I'm not really too, crazy about going for it. I'm going to get rid of the research here. Normally it's awkward to get rid of the research, but, I don't fully hate the idea of using research, so we'll go Fog Crystal. Fog Crystal can grab us the other energy, which means we can use this Xatu now. Means we can go, we'll go to this Valiant. So we draw boss's orders too, which is huge. So now we can retreat, go for a yoga loop. And now, depending on what we get, we can just keep setting up how we need to. There's not too much that my opponent really has the chance of doing, so. And as long as we find some energy, we should be okay. We only have one, so there is the Mew. So there's the Calyrex. So we'll go Town Store right now, just so that way we can thin the deck a little bit more. We'll get the other booster down, which means we can go booster onto the Valiant, and then we can go for a Iono. Now Iono is going to put us down in cards, but I do need some cards to work with. And I do get the Jet Energy as well, which is fantastic. So we'll go Fog Crystal first, grab the Psychic, and as long as I can get another Psychic here, we'll be in a good spot. I won't have to go for anything else. And I do get the Energy Retrieval, which is perfect, as well as the Fog Crystal. So what we can actually do is use the Jet Energy on here, save the energy on the Medicham. We'll go Fog Crystal again, grab the Psychic. We can use Xatu again, and now we're just gonna, be playing basically set up with our board state and what we need to do. So we can retreat. There's another Valiant going down. We'll put 20 onto this Ralt, and then from here, we'll just go for a Laser Blade. 220, taking a knockout. And there is the other Iron Valiant. So if we had the ability to, put a Calyrex in play, we definitely would have been able to, limit my opponent's board. They would have only had one Ralts to work with, so. We'll just have to see what my opponent goes for here. If they do give us a chance to Yoga Loop, I'm completely fine with that. So there is the Kirlia coming down. So that Kirlia does have the chance to get Yoga Looped, because we do have the option to retreat. We just have to find a way to get the Valiant in the active. And there's the Evolution TM going on to Ralt. So let's see what we can do. There is another level ball grabbing the Kirlia. So my opponent can go into actually the EX and Arcana off of evolving these, but I don't think it's going to be too important. And there is a worker. We do have access to Iono as well, so. There's Refinement coming down. Honestly, I think we're just gonna be, playing the prize race and doing as much as we can, putting my opponent in an awkward spot. And my opponent decides to actually get rid of the Technical Machine. And there is the EX, so they must have Rare Candy EX on the active. So they do, so there's a Rare Candy into Guardy. So we do only have the option to hit 260, but if my opponent accelerates enough to the active, then they're in for a rough time. So they are only going to be dealing 40 to themselves, so we are in a bit of an awkward spot. But I think what we're going to do, honestly, is just pick off the bench. So, and there is a counter catcher coming down. And that's actually super fine because I do get to promote a Valiant. And I can KO the Curlia, so... And I should still have something in the active, so... Or on the bench... Somewhere in here to, you know, kind of set up, so... Let's see. I thought on promotion... interesting. Okay. So, let's see. If I retreat, go 20, and I have this Valiant to go 20. So, that's fine. And I can hit 200. I don't hate that. So, I'm thinking what we do... Go Super Rod. We'll Super Rod back in some energy, as well as the Medicham. And now we do have access to Ultra Ball, and we do have a Valiant. The only awkward thing is the fact that our Valiant isn't going to be able to do too much. So, let's see. First thing we'll do is Ultra Ball. And we'll grab the Medicham. The other awkward thing is the fact that, you know, we... Oh, man. It's so awkward. I should have kept 2 energy, but all is well. So, we'll go here. So we do get the second energy, which is good. We also get boss, which is huge. So, let's see. If I go sense, and then I go 20 and another... I just need a switching card, and then if I can Yoga Loop one of these, I'll be in a good spot. And then I can boss the other one, and then my opponent just has the EX. So, okay, there's a switch cart, which is huge. That's what we needed. So if I switch cart, that'll put it at 40. Yoga Loop would be 60. So I kind of need a lot more than that. Let's see, if I hit 240, that puts it to 280, which is fine. So, okay. So, what we'll do is retreat. Let's see, I'm hitting 220. That'll put it at 260, which means that I still need 2 regardless. So I need to spread the damage on these Curlias just so that way my opponent can't fully benefit off of the Arcana. And then we do get Switch as well as an energy to attach for the turn. Let's see. If I save this energy, that's fine. So yeah, we're just going to hit 220. And then depending on what my opponent does, if they choose to, you know, evolve these Curlias into something that's not the EX, we can actually Yoga Loop the EX and then put my opponent in an even more awkward spot, because then it means that they have no acceleration going, so... Oh, man. For some reason, I thought the Tachyon bits worked when you promoted it. But I think it's when you use Strafe. Yeah, that is what it is, so that's okay. When you use an attack that forces you out of the active, you know, you can activate the damage, but when you're promoting it for the turn, you can't, so. Okay, there's the first Arcana coming down. And if my opponent finds something like boss, we're definitely in trouble. Potentially. If we can pull off, you know, a couple Valiants, we'll definitely be in a good spot, but right now, it's definitely awkward. So, because I need to find, let's see, this is at 260 right now, so it needs 50, so that means I have to hit double Valiant into the 60. Okay, and there's a Cresselia, so Cresselia is going to be a little bit annoying. but it's definitely not the end of the world annoying, so... And if we can actually hit boss, we're in a good spot. And my opponent just decides to play Iono, which is fine. So, and we actually get our own boss's orders, which is huge. And we also hit the switch cart. So, we can't Yoga Loop the Guardy, but we do have boss to be able to KO the Zacian. And I don't think that there's a way my opponent's going to be able to take 3 prizes next turn. So, providing that... you know, we can set up how we need to, we should be okay. My opponent has more than enough energy as well, so... I think what the game plan is to... let's see. We're probably just going to boss the Zacian and take a knockout. And then from there... just do as much as we can. As much damage as we can. So... Okay, so there is the psychic energy, so we do have a way to fully power up. I'm gonna hold on to the Shadow Calyrex, because I think that actually might win us the game, depending on how we play out the next turn. So I think what we'll do is go switch cart into the Valiant, which means that now we can go 20... And then we can retreat into this Valiant. Use Tachyon Bits, which means that we can go 20. And now even if my opponent heals it, we're still in a good spot. Actually, I need to bench this Calyrex now. I think we can just checkmate my opponent, so... We'll definitely go here. Draw some cards. So we get another Iron Valiant, which is good. Then we'll go boss's orders onto the Zacian, which means now we have the chance to Laser Blade for 220, take 2 prizes. We'll attach for turn to this Calyrex, and then 220. And now even if my opponent Cresselias, if they don't get Mana Fee, they lose. And if they do... as long as we have a way to pivot between the 3 Iron Valiants, which I'm pretty sure we do now, we should be okay. Because if my opponent KOs Medicham, then we just go into Calyrex, retreat, 20, 40. I need one more switching card. So I think we're okay. So my opponent has to find Mana Fee here for them to win. But no, then they also lose to... They just lose to a ping with the Valiant, so... This is a stressful game, but we're definitely doing what we're supposed to be doing, so... There's a worker, so my opponent's just digging. They probably are just searching for the Mana Fee, which makes sense because Mana Fee is a big part of, you know, preventing the Calyrex from actually being a win con, so... There's the Ultra Ball. And they haven't grabbed the Mana Fee yet, so I'm gonna assume that it's maybe prize, because they have gone through both of their abilities already. But even if they got Mana Fee down, if they went Moonglow Reverse, that's only 80. They would still have to put another Pokemon in play. And then... Let's see. Oh, wait, we place damage counters, so even then, Mana Fee doesn't stop the Calyrex, so I don't think my opponent has a way to win any, like, at all. Because no matter what, if we just go a Valiant Ping into Medicham, we win, even if my opponent puts it at 260. No, we'd still need one. We would still need one more, but I don't know. It's tricky, but we should have the win con here. So. Because if we just retreat, the only way that my opponent would potentially win would be if the... Okay, interesting. My opponent's just going into the Gardevoir. And they played Worker, so... You know, there's not too much that they can do. They could counter Catcher and bring up the Calyrex, but even then, a Valiant Ping into Medicham just takes the KO there, so... I don't think that my opponent really wins by making this play. And we can actually take 5 prizes. We might be able to take, or not 5, I'm sorry, 3 prizes. We might be able to take 4, but that would just be BMing my opponent, and I really don't want to do that, so... There is 6 energy on the Calyrex, or on the Gardevoir. There's Manaphy, and we do put 5 damage counters, so again, there's not too much my opponent can do. Okay, so they choose to get rid of the EX, which is fine. We'll just get rid of the Squawk here. And even so, we just win here because we can put 20 on the Manaphy and then Calyrex does the extra damage that we need. So choose 2 of your opponents. I didn't mean to promote that off the rip. That's fine. That's why we have the second one. Wow, I can't believe I just did that. I may have just lost myself the game from that. Potentially. No, I didn't lose. Okay. Ooh, that scared me. So we retreat. Go 20 on a Manaphy. And then choose 2 of your opponent's Pokemon and put 5 damage counters on each of them. So if we just attach into Escape Rope, now we can use the Astral Barrage. It's so awkward with, like, if it's promoted on your turn. So, and then we can just use Astral Barrage, do 50 and 50. Take our 2 prizes, and then we are able to win the game. So definitely a bit tricky. Always keep in mind that Valiant is on your turn, not when you promote it. You kind of get lost in the sauce with so many things happening, but definitely was a good game. Small misplays aside, we were still able to, you know, pull off the combos that we needed. And it all worked out. So if you guys did enjoy today's video, do me a favor, smash the like button, subscribe, turn on post notifications. Thank you for all of the love and support. And I have to say that this deck is a lot of fun. It definitely takes some time to kind of get used to because it's a numbers game. It's a very, you know, big spread deck. So, but again, thank you guys for all of the love and support, and I will catch you in tomorrow's video. Later.